Welcome to Free Tutorial TV and a tutorial about the PyQt6 course. In this lesson, we are going to learn about different types of window classes. Now we have already saw that how you can build your first simple GUI application using PyQt, and we have already mentioned it that there are different types of window type classes that we can use in PyQt. Now the first one is a QMainWindow. The QMainWindow class provides a main application window. A main window provides a framework for building an application user interface. PyQt has QMainWindow and its related classes for main window management. Now QMainWindow has its own layout to which you can add Q toolbars and Q dockable widgets and Q menu bars and also the Q status bar. Another types of window that we have, window class that we have that called QDialogs. Now QDialog class is the base class of the dialog window, and a dialog window is a top level window mostly used for the short-term tasks and brief communication with the user. QDialog may be modal and also a mode list. And the third type is the QWidget that we have already saw the example of QWidget in the first video. And now the QWidget class is the base class of all the user interface objects. The widget is an important point of the user interface. So it's received mouse, keyboards, and other events from the Windows systems and paints a representation of itself on the screen. Now let's create an example. Now we have already saw the example of QWidget, so you can see that from the PyQt.qtWidgets module, we have imported QWidgets, and if I run this, you will see that I have a simple window with minimize, maximize, and closing buttons. And now let's create our QMainWindow, and here I'm going to create another Python file. I'm just going to call it, for example, window.py. And we want to copy all the codes from here and we can paste it in this section. Now I'm going to change this to QMainWindow, and the window is equal to QMainWindow objects. We need to create objects over QMainWindow. Now if I run this, you will see that I have the same window, a little bit smaller, but it's a QMainWindow. We have to minimize, maximize button, and so we can also close this. Now I have already said that you are using a QMainWindow. You can access to, for example, you can access to the Q status bar, Q toolbar, and Q dockable widgets, and also the Q menu bar. Now let's create a status bar in here in this section. And here I am going to just say window status bar, then the show message, and here I'm going to just say welcome to Qt6 course. So I'm going to run this. You can see that now I have the status bar in here, and you can see in the QMainWindow. Now if I add this in my QWidget window, now let me copy this, and if I paste in here, in run this, you can see that we are receiving an error. Now I'm telling that QWidget object has no attribute status bar because we cannot use status bar in the QWidget application. So for example, you can create a menu bar in the QMainWindow. For example, you can just say window.menuBar.addmenu. For example, I want to add a file menu. Now I run this. See, you can see that I have a file menu in here, and I add this in my window, the widgets window, and run this application. Now you can see that I'm receiving an error. QWidget object has no attribute called status bar, or for example a menu bar. Now let's create another type of window that's QDialog has. I have already said that it is like a dialog window, and we can just say window 3, and and we can just copy the exact code from here, paste it in this section. And let me first change this to Q dialog, and the window is equal to Q dialog, just to create the objects of the Q dialog. And now if I run this, so you can see that we are receiving error that Q dialog object has no attribute status bar. And now if I remove these two lines, and now if I run this, see, you can see that I'm seeing my window, a Q dialog window, but you can see that I am not seeing any maximize or minimize button. But I have just a close button, and I could close this. Okay, with this I'm ending the tutorial. So let us see in the next video. Have a nice time.